So, it's finally time to talk about Delusions, Visions, Sumeru, all the rest of the stuff. I would have made this video earlier, but this past week's been a little bit, hectic to say the least. But at least we're finally starting to get some actual anniversary rewards like that new wing glider. That looks sick, and I personally love it a lot. From what we know so far, Delusions were created by the Tsaritsa, who has some kind of grudge against Celestia for something they did in the past. Thanks to the comics, we know that Delusions tend to work for those with negative emotions and feelings of revenge, just like it did with Diluc and his dad Crepus. But once those feelings of revenge are gone, I believe Delusions become 10 times more dangerous for its users, as was the case for Diluc's father when it backfired and killed him. Other characters in the story that we've seen the Delusions backfire on is Tepe and the Resistant Army, as it turned them all into old people. Which makes me wonder, is all the people we fight that are in the Fatui just old people? Cause, every Fatui member has a Delusion somewhere on their piece of clothing. The Cryo and Electrocian mages keep theirs on their necks, whereas the new Hydrocian mage keeps theirs on their stomach. Then there's the Pyro Fatui agent that keeps his on his chest. Maybe that explains why some of the Fatui members like the Electro Boxer have a grey complexion, because they're just that old now, and they just don't want to let go of their power. It also could be another reason why all the Fatui members wear masks, because they want to hide their shame. Are we really just beating up old people? Probably not, but it's an interesting thought. I'm pretty sure we all assume that Delusions are just like Visions, that they're amplifiers for power. But we also assume that Delusions are more powerful than normal Visions, just they have a bigger consequence. The common side effects of using a Delusion tend to not affect the Harbingers like Child's Ignore and Scaramouche, probably because they have a lot of anger inside them, though Child seems to have a few side effects when he uses his Delusion, seeing that he gets tired. The first official Delusion that we've ever seen in Genshin lore, thanks to the manga, belonged to Diluc's dad. It had the power to summon chains that would constrict and, kill the target if need be. The other major ones have been in game, Signora having the power of Cryo, keeping her cool and stopping her from burning to death in her Crimson form. Child's Delusion had the power of Electro, granting him just another element. But I guess it also gives him that cool Power Rangers transformation as well. Oh yeah, and don't forget, in light of recent story events, we learned that Delusions can be manufactured on a large scale in factories made by the Fatui. Which might in part be thanks to Diluc giving his Delusion away to a Fatui Harbinger, but hopefully not. Delusion power source might be the same as Collei's powers in the manga being Archon residue, but there's no way to know for sure yet. We'll talk more on that later. A few more interesting things about Delusions though. The Knights of Favonius say that Delusions emit the smell of mistgrass, and when Jean finds Diluc's dad's vision, she calls it the Evil Eye. I don't think we can talk about Delusions without bringing up Visions at least once. It used to be that people thought Visions were granted by Archons such as Venti and Zhongli, but thanks to A, we know that Visions are actually not granted by the Archons. This is what Raiden has to say about giving Visions.
Really? So in all this time, no new Electrovisions have appeared in the outside world? Well, what I can say on this topic is subject to certain constraints, but it is not by my will that visions are granted or denied. The key is people's desire, and, there's another side to it too.
Makes you wonder, why is there still no new Electrovisions? Is Electro just hated by Celestia? We know that people who get their visions tend to be similar to the Archon that gave it to them in terms of beliefs, so maybe it's because Electrovisions all think differently than others? Whatever the case is, our next best guess is that visions are given by Celestia. For now at least. Oh yeah, I'm also expecting us to start getting characters who have lost their visions. I don't see anyone else talking about it for some reason, but I believe it will happen eventually. A character that's been mentioned in a lot of Inazuma voice lines, for example, is Itto.
Who?
Itto is a character who lost his vision to Kujo Sara during the Vision Hunt decree, and somehow, unlike all the other people who lost their vision during the Vision Hunt decree, he didn't lose his motivation or ambition, and even challenged her daily to a rematch trying to get it back, much to Sarah's dismay of course, since he followed her everywhere. And I guess if you want to know what he's like, here's how Sarah would describe him.
I can't help but get a little irate when his name comes up. He kicked up a big fuss when I confiscated his vision. By far the noisiest person. No, the noisiest Oni I've ever encountered. He showed he was enough of a man to admit defeat, but the rematch he insisted upon... To this day, I still don't want to talk about it. If you really must know, you can go and ask him yourself.
If you're wondering what he challenged her to, I believe it was sumo wrestling. I mentioned before that delusions are being made in factories. Part of the reason for this might be possible thanks to Doterra. Doterra is one of the 11 Fatui Harbingers who I'm probably ripping off his name really bad, who first appeared in the Genshin Impact manga. At the time of the story, he was a Snezhnayan diplomat to Mondstadt, and as Child describes him, he has a personal passion for tinkering with things like rune guards, so much so that he even turned his personal assistant into a machine in the manga that Amber and Jean had to team up to destroy. And if you remember the Tartaglia story quest with Deucer where we played Babysitter, which I personally did not like, that is actually one of Doterra's research facilities in Liyue, developed in order to research creatures of the Abyss. His nickname, by the way, is the Doctor, given to him by the first Fatui Harbinger Piero when he was studying Sumeru for his ability to create enhanced humans. This guy is so twisted that while he was in Mondstadt, he would lure invulnerable targets to the Fatui only to use them for his human experiments. Doterra's views on Vision is also very unique. When he's passing by Amber in the manga, he shares his thoughts about how he thinks Visions are nothing but a bunch of inflated tools, contrary to the majority of the Vision wielders we know. We also don't know if he has anything to do with the assassination attempt on Diluc's dad, but that's still up in airs. In the manga, we did get a brief tease of his delusion when he silences Krupp, who Diluc was interrogating as Batman. He also calls it a vision for some reason, but that just might be to throw Diluc off at this point. Any weird mechanical creatures that we end up fighting in the future is probably thanks to him, and I can't wait for him to pop up in the rest of the story because he plays a really important role in it, when you consider the fact that he's the reason Diluc decided to leave the Knights of Favonius in the first place. Hopefully though, he doesn't get killed off like another Snezhnayan diplomat we all know and love. Sumeru probably won't be coming out anytime soon. I kinda expect more filler anime arcs with festivals and a few more Inazuma characters before it comes out, just like 1.4 if you were there. I think the new monsters that just got revealed from the 2.2 livestream will also play a role into the future of like how Dendro works, and some of the enemies we'll face in Sumeru. For those of you who don't like ever doing the Spiral Abyss, recently miHoYo tested a new reaction on us called Corrosion. What Corrosion does is it zaps the life force of your characters, basically gives you the bleeding effect or poison. You can think of it that way. And now they've given it to these Rift Hounds, so now anyone who likes shield characters like Zhongli, they won't help you as much anymore in every situation. Kokomi players will rise and Zhongli's will fall. So the reason I bring up these Rift Hounds in the first place is because the effect of being affected by corrosion looks just like Collei from the Genshin Impact manga, when she used her Archon residue powers to kill 2 Fatui diplomats with a serpent made of black fire. Though the Rift Heralds use Abyssal power, which to my knowledge is different so far than the Archon residue she uses, I think that one of the two could be the things that power delusions. Collei's fire is even seen to get confused with Diluc's delusion from the citizens of Mondstadt when he helps her escape from Mondstadt. And just so you know, we're probably going to meet characters that are being tested on in Sumeru and fused with Archon residue like Collei was. The good thing for Collei was that she could handle the power, but I'm sure there's plenty of kids who died by being injected with it. Also, the scientist who tested on Collei and injected her with the Archon residue is known as Barnabas from the Fatui. He tends to do experiments with the Doctor, Doterra, so yeah, not the most humane experiments. They did end up showing off his powers when he was chasing Amber and Collei. He also had Blackfire when he used his abilities, later summoning a giant chimera to fight for him when he got desperate. He was trying to stop Sinnoh, who was Lisa's master from Sumeru Academy, from stealing away Collei's Archon residue, but with the help of Diluc, they were able to put a stop to his plans and defeat him. And now that I think about it, when we were confronting Scaramouche in the Fatui factory, it looked like the Archon residue or corrosion had infected us, feeding off our anger just as it did with Collei, when she was getting angry at Kaya for being Kaya. It also reminds me of Dvalin when he was poisoned by the Abyss. And just like any abyssal power, it tends to eat away at your conscience until you pass out. So as of right now, it feels like Sumeru is just full of evil scientists, and probably some nice Dendro characters. When Dainsleif talks about Sumeru, he even says that Sumeru knowledge is a mirage in the desert of ignorance, something that appears real or possible but is not in fact so. Meaning it's possible that all of them believe some sort of lie. You know, maybe there's a fake Archon who leads Sumeru while the real Archon is hidden in the shadows somewhere. I have no evidence for that though, that's just a random thought of mine. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and comment down below to help with the YouTube algorithm. And if you subscribe, I'll see you next time.